this busy podcast, bro.
There's a lot, man. I was searching for it, I'm like, holy fuck.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the O Show. I'm Tate Harris. You can follow me on Twitter at Tate Harris9, and you can follow Cody, my co-host, Cody Wall, on Twitter at Cody Wall62. Cody, another week, I don't know where I was going with that. We recorded a podcast at the beginning of the week, believe it or not.
Yeah, we had it all done. We were done for the week, setting up for our new schedules of coming out Tuesdays, and then everything happened.
Everything happened, and we decided to redo it because one thing happened, but then more stuff started happening, and it just made sense to redo the whole podcast.
Yeah, it's going to be 10 times better now.
I hope so. I really do. I was worried about the last one. I'm like, well, that was a weak episode.
Well, to be fair, there wasn't really all that much to talk about, and now we have too much to talk about.
Yeah, this may be a long one. This may not be a long one. I really don't know. So, either way.
There we go.
For those wondering, looking at my shirt, which is, for those watching the YouTube version, it has a lot of dots, so it seems to be a little shiny for whatever reason. Oh, that's not good to do. Radio 101 not to do that. Yeah, the shirt's awful, but we're getting through it. No gel in my hair today either, Cody. It's been a struggle, buddy. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, to be honest, this is a shirt I got to bed in, so it's not much better for me.
So you just got out of bed is what you're trying to say.
No, I've actually revamped my entire sleep schedule. I've been getting up at 6:30 every day for like the past week and a half. And
6:30 a.m.?
A.m. And I'm like, I love it now. Like, I wake up and it comes like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, whoa, I got the entire day left.
There you go, buddy. That's new. Look at you working hard. A new man, some would say. The Tinder likes are probably going up.
The Tinder, I removed Tinder.
Oh, the struggle is still real. That's okay. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun here, enjoying life. But as Cody kind of mentioned briefly there, Tuesdays we will be out specifically on Tuesdays, and you'll be able to find us on tarpsofthockey.net from now on, and the other platforms that you normally listen to. We're not leaving anything. But yeah, they have a schedule for us, and Tuesday is that day. And we will also be doing the podcast fully in video form, the entire podcast. So you can catch that on our YouTube channel, which is always in the links or in our bios. You'll have the options of, YouTube. What's the other ones, Cody? Spotify, Apple, and Google.
Google, yeah.
We have a Twitch there, but that's just basically if you want to hear us swear, what it's like for us to swear, you probably can go to watch some of our old Twitch videos, because that's all that's really there.
That's all it is.
It's
just
not
me
good.
Mad for half an hour and going silent.
Specifically, Alex.
We don't even know who Alex is.
Well, we could give him a shout out. Alex Kubinick, the man, the myth, the legend, my best friend. I'll say it.
Would you say he's our second biggest fan after Brad?
Alex, no, he doesn't listen to the podcast, dude.
He doesn't. Why is he always chirping me about the podcast?
Because he just likes to. He's a fun guy like that. That's what we did growing up. We chirped each other a lot. Like Alex and I, when we were kids, dude, we would fight, like literal fist. When we lived together, we got in a couple fist fights. Sometimes over girls. Honestly, it made no sense. But now looking back, I'm like, that guy's gonna be the future best man of my wedding. There's no doubt in my mind.
Maybe he'll be the groom.
Hey, if I get lucky enough. Okay, so when we got done recording last week, there was a video that people started sharing and tweeting. Eric guessed this video. He's a former Kitchener Ranger. Basically, he tells a story about when he was 16, a teammate locked him in the bathroom and forced him and another player, another rookie or young player, to do cocaine at a party. This was back, like, guest played for the Rangers from 2016 to 2019. So he would have been a rookie in 2016. That was 4 years ago. He said, when you're young in that league, you listen to what the older guys tell you. They have power. They rule you, especially guys who are drafted. They're future NHLers and stuff. You do what they tell you. That's all it is. Kitchener later released a statement basically saying the allegations involve former players with our team and are extremely serious, potentially criminal conduct. As a result, we have contacted the Waterloo Regional Police Services. We will participate with the commissioner and the league in their investigation. Until the investigation is complete, there will be no further comments from the club.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot.
It was a lie. And watching the video, I don't know about you, Cody. It's sad to hear. We've seen this play out a few times now, publicly at least. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, well, we've talked even privately about like how people know that cocaine's an issue in hockey, especially in the NHL, and it's kind of no one really talks about it, but people know it's an issue. And then like you've told stories on the podcast in the past about your rookie party, and it wasn't even the OHL. You were just taping, what was it, alcohol to your hands? And
yeah, Edward Foudy hands.
The Edward Foudy hands.
Which is like, it sounds funny, and I hate to laugh because at the end of the day, for me, it was funny. In that situation, I allowed it to happen. I was okay with it, where there was other players who showed and were vocal about not being okay with the things that were done to them. But nothing was done about it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Like you said, it was sad to watch because towards the end of the video, there's a part where he like actually gets up and walks away for a little bit, and like you could tell like he's 4 years removed from this, and he talked about how much of an impact it had on him and being in a psych ward for like, he said 45 days or so. Like this is something that affects him too. Like it's hard to talk about to this day.
Yeah.
And this is something that happened 4 years ago. Like I don't know. It's just, it shows you how much of an impact, like coming into that league at such a young age, 16, and then how much of an influence the older players have on the young guys.
Everyone just wants to play in the NHL so badly. And Cody, we were both at an age where we wanted to. And I'm sure if you even asked us at those young ages, what would you do to be in the NHL? You would have said anything.
Yep.
And obviously neither of us got anywhere close to the opportunity, but the OHL is close. So inside you would do anything. And a lot of times we're seeing these players, or people, I should say, because that's what they're people, do anything to have their dreams accomplished. And I'm sure in the back of their mind, it's like, when I make it, things will be better. You know, when I'm a vet in this league, I'll be getting ready for the NHL. I won't be focusing on some of this stuff. And then when you get in the NHL, it's the same thing, a different abuse as you're a rookie again. It's like, 3 more years, I got to grind it out, or like you're grinding out in the A first, and now you're grinding out in the NHL. Like for some of these guys, it's never ending.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing with Guest is like, you could tell just by the way he talked about himself, like he truly believed at one point, like he had a chance, because he talked about coming into his rookie season, he finished first in on ice and off ice fitness drills or whatever. So like he was a 3rd round pick for the Rangers, but like he had some pedigree to him that he's like, okay, I finished first on ice and off ice, and they said it was the first time it ever happened at that point. Like I'm sure he thought pretty highly of himself.
Well, I think anyone that makes an OHL team out of camp really feels like they have a shot, or a real shot, or that their development's going in the right direction. My biggest takeaway, Cody, and this might have been in the other, because he posted another video before the one that everyone retweeted. He said he was physically ready for the OHL. He said he could skate well. He had a lot of the skills that allowed him to play in the O at 16, but mentally wasn't ready to deal with 7,000 fans every single night, because that's what you're playing in front of in Kitchener. Imagine London, 9,000, and you got Ottawa. Even Owen Sound, you have 2,000 people. You're a 16-year-old kid. You were just playing midget hockey with parents in the crowd and scouts, obviously, but mostly parents in the crowd. You didn't have fans. The only pressure you got was either from your parents or yourself. I guess nowadays some kids probably have agents that have some pressure, but you would feel it every night. And I mentioned this. Will Scouch put out a tweet about how hard these leagues can be on these kids, and I said it's kind of strange that for exceptional status at 15 years old, we test these kids to see whether they're mentally mature enough to also, because obviously a lot of these kids have the ability to move up to play at 15 through skills, but they also have to be mentally capable. Strange that a year later at 16 or even 2 at 17, we don't worry about if they're mentally ready.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think back to like me in high school and just like grade 9 me. I acted the same as I did in grade 8 as I did in grade 9, and probably in grade 10 I acted the same I did in grade 9. Like, I can't narrow down at a certain age where like I'm like, okay, I this is where I started to mature. It's probably once I turned 19, 20. But like the gap between 15 and 16 isn't anything. Like, I feel like I was the same at 15 as I was at 16.
Yeah, I feel the same. I don't remember a difference. And growing up playing hockey, I lived in a small town, and when our midget team was doing well, there's fans. People came out. The town came out to support us when you're going on that play down run, and and as strange as like I felt pressure, which is ridiculous. And like these kids just have it on a different level. But like I also seen Scott Wheeler say, how crazy is we expect these kids to move out when they're 16. And I do look, if you're if you're super smart at school, you're exceptional at school, usually you gotta leave your town or wherever you're going to find your success at a young age. If you're a musician, you got to leave, whether it's a certain private school you're trying to get in. A lot of people that are exceptional at things do have to move out when they're young.
Yeah.
But I come back to those people are also tested mentally if they're prepared.
Yeah.
And I like how many violin players or piano players hate the life they have, or look at child actors who turn to drugs and because of the life. I just don't know what you can do. Like how do you think we could prevent this or try to help with the journey that these kids are going to experience?
That's the tough thing because, like, when you're talking with the OHL, you're talking billets, and like how Eric said in the video, like his first billet family he absolutely hated, but he was straight up lying to his family about like, yeah, everything's okay, everything's fine, because he, in the back of his mind, he thought that his family would be like, okay, you're coming back home. So it's like, it's so tough because like each kid is going to react to something differently, and you can't really narrow it down to one case. And like Eric said in the video, he said like he had a counselor who ended up being his billet, but like, so the counseling is already in place. I mean, I guess
I think it was. I think that's from school though. A guidance counselor. I'm not.
was
sure,
it from
though.
school? Okay.
That's what I understood from the video. But it might also be a team counselor.
Okay, so I don't know because like it's like I said, it's almost like a case by case situation in the sense that not not every kid's going to react the same. So it would be great for me to say, okay, here's the steps needed to improve the situation. But like, it's so hard when you have 20 kids on a team, and you're trying to choose which is the best option for everyone, because like I said, everyone's going to react different.
It is hard. It's hard to find what the right thing to do is. And you take a look at European leagues where you kind of get built up in your hometown or closest city to you. They have like programs like the Windsor Spitfires, the Junior Spitfires team, the U16 Spits would move up to the under 20 Spits. Like that kind of system. I'm not sure if that should be in place. It's tough no matter what. Obviously some counseling through the team has to happen. Either the CHL pays for it, the OHL pays for
Yeah.
it, the team, someone has to pay for it. These kids have to have someone to talk to because of that pressure. That would be the first step I think you take. Are there, and I don't know this, I have no idea if this is out there, are there drug tests? Do they test for cocaine and other drugs during the season? I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I know they test for like performance enhancing drugs.
yeah.
Because we've seen people get suspended for it, but what happens when a player tests positive for cocaine?
Yeah, I would wonder how the testing would go about that, because especially in the OHL level, like I'm sure there's players who do cocaine all the time at the NHL level, but like I'm thinking OHL, like the kids probably don't have the money to be constantly doing cocaine. It's probably like the parties or something like that. And maybe I'm just naive and I don't know how much cocaine goes for.
I mean, I don't think how much some of these kids can party.
Yeah, I don't know, because you're right in the sense that like 100%, if there isn't counseling implemented right now, there has to be through the team. The league has to pay for it. And
well, even even a comment on what I said, like take Eric Guest. So say they did a cocaine test and he tests positive. He was forced to do it, so it becomes a little messy in that way. And also, like, you can't announce publicly that a 16 or 17-year-old kid tested positive for cocaine, because I think we all did things in our lives that were mistakes at those ages, in learning moments. Like, I smoked weed when I was that age. It was illegal back then. You know what I mean? And I don't now. It doesn't matter because it's illegal now, but it's just, like you do things as kids that are stupid.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do, because I think obviously underage drinking and drugs get involved in these rookie parties, which is an issue. And I do think teams know about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what systems we can implement to fix it.
Yeah. Well, I was talking with a buddy about the situation. He sent me it on Snapchat. He's like, what's your opinion on this? And I kind of told him what I thought. And then he's like, I told him about the billet system. And then he said, well, that's no different than in the NHL. They'll put a rookie with another player on the team as a roommate. And I'm like, it's completely different, because that roommate, odds are, is in his late 20s or early 30s, sometimes even late 30s. Like they're a full-on adult with a family a lot of times. And like, it's a totally different situation, because like you have that, even though there's the difference in age, you have that bond that he's your teammate. You're like, and I know
it's a different, it's more of a friendship.
Yeah. And like, I'm not to say they always say like a lot of people keep in touch with their billets, but like, you're not going to have that same connection that you're going to have with like a teammate that you see every day on the ice and you battle with on the ice. And it's just a different bond that you share. So it's complete. Like, I just thought that point was like completely crazy, because it's not the same situation.
No, it's not the same. And but sometimes the personalities just don't mesh. Like, say for example, you're raised in a super liberal type family, very open about things. And then your billet is a conservative family, and you hear them say things that you don't agree with morally, and what do you do? I guess you can request, but at that age, you're so afraid. You're so
Yeah,
afraid
100%.
to cause any problems, and I guess maybe that's the whole problem, is this hockey culture of not speaking up, or this toxic masculinity as men, where we feel like we can't speak up and say this doesn't feel right. I'm hurt. I'm sad. Real men don't cry type stuff going on. Like it's just years of problems on top of each other, creating a situation like this where you see a kid obviously affected.
Well, one thing I would want to kind of know is what's the process like in the OHL for a billet family? Like, are you doing meetings with your billet family before and being like, hey, I'm comfortable? Like, do you get to know them before are you just sent there?
With your billets?
Yeah, like the way I'm thinking is like in college, our one friend Jordan, he met with his roommates ahead of time and like did interviews with them and been like, this is what I'm into, this is what such and such, and it's kind of like, okay, I think I would be a good fit to live with this guy. Are they doing the same thing with billet family, where they're doing all these questions to see if it's a match?
I don't know. I don't think they're. I bet you some teams struggle to even get enough billets. I don't know. Do you
Yeah,
think? Do you think
maybe.
that's a problem in the O? I don't know. I know like some junior teams locally have that problem.
Yeah, I could see like locally, but like I would think the O would be pretty easy to get billet families for.
Yeah,
You would think.
I would think so too, but it depends like what kind of testing, how much money the billet family, because I mean they're putting out money obviously to have that kid stay there. I don't know. I guess maybe we're not familiar enough with the process to figure out how to fix the process, but people that can is the OHL itself. They know their process. They have to take a look at this situation, because he's not the first one, and I think probably the most famous one or well-known person to mention this is Dan Carcillo.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Eric's video helped push this a little further, because Dan Carcillo started a class action lawsuit today while we're recording this on June 18th against the league and the teams that make up the Canadian Hockey League. So not just the O. The action is on behalf of children aged 15 to 17 who were sexually and physically assaulted, hazed, and otherwise abused while away from home and playing for CHL teams. The class action alleges the leagues and teams were entrusted with the care of these minors and were neglected and breached their duties they owed them. Carcillo commented as well. He said, this case is on behalf of underage minors who suffered violent hazing, physical and sexual assault, and psychological trauma while playing major junior hockey. I was one of those kids when I played in the OHL. I know there are many more just like me. So, like I said, I believe this is a response to not just Eric's story, obviously Carcillo's story himself and other players, Akeem Alou, who came out recently about some of the issues that were thrown on to him while playing in the OHL. This is a problem. I don't know how many kids or people are going to sign up and add their names to this lawsuit.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's a tough thing, because if you sign up to join this, you're blacklisting yourself from probably definitely the CHL, might even go further than that. Like
you would have to be years removed.
Yeah, you would have to be years removed, and I like something needs to happen. And I'm glad Carcillo did this, and like he is one of the cases where he is years removed. He's already done his career,
Yeah,
and he's already a vocal person on Twitter as it is. So like, I think you're right in the sense that like this probably wasn't only because of Eric, but I think Eric was the tipping point that probably gave him like, okay, I'm doing this right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And just like the one thing, just to bring it back to Eric about in the Carcillo situation, is in that video he mentioned he was talking to a girl and he said, "Hey, I'm a hockey player," and she said, "Oh, not another one of those types." And it just shows the stigma that follows hockey.
Well, here's the thing, man. You see this with you see this with guys. You put a bunch of guys together, things get reckless, they're idiots. Like, take a look at frat houses and how many problems of abuse and hazing that we've seen.
Yep.
You know, how many sports teams that aren't just hockey with a bunch of guys that do the same thing. I talked about doing it on a travel team that did not matter at all. They did it to us. It like there was no reason for it. Rookies, buddy, we're 2 years apart. It starts for me. It starts with, I don't know, like, I don't know what people are gonna think, but obviously educating men, and we have to have growth. And you can say what you want about feminism, but part of that is ridding of toxic masculinity, and I think that's the bigger problem that's around this. Obviously, hockey has its bubble and has its issues, and we're seeing it because we're in that circle. But this circle is part of a larger circle, if that makes sense.
Well, we've all done it at some point in our lives. We all acted like the alpha just because it's like, oh, if I got to be the biggest guy in the room at this point. Like, just me. Tate knows me in college. I didn't talk. Well, afterwards, I was really talkative to the people I knew, but like I wouldn't go out of my way to reach out to everyone. But then I went to this one college party and there was a girl at the time I was interested in, and I was there with my buddy Jordan, and he said, "I've never seen Cody like that." He flipped a switch and he went all alpha on me. And it's like, yeah, it's stupid, but you try and impress people by being, oh, I'm the alpha.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you look like an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
thinking.
Well, when you think of these frat boys and like these kinds of people, you think they're idiots. They're immature.
Yeah.
That's what you think of them. That's what you really think of them. And then when you grow up and you see what I don't know, like what cool is, like cool to me is, someone who goes to work every day and works hard, and respects people and tries to see people's opinions from their own angle. You know what I mean? And like that person's shoes. That's what's cool to me, and it took me time. I mean, look, man, you know how I talk in real life. I'm a sut dude. I'm a bros bro. My friends are bros, and it takes time. It's taken me time to even. I was always worried saying something, if someone said something misogynistic, or I thought someone's, not acting right. It took me time to say something. In college, though, popping bottles and trying to be the man, trying to be the alpha was just everyday life, and that was an issue. It took me time. I don't know, man. Like I try to figure out all the time why I changed or what made me want to change. And it's just something I guess I educated myself on. I made a joke on Facebook one time that was misogynistic. I had some women say something to me about it that I cared about. I talked about it on the Black Lives. Like, that's usually how I've changed different things. It's not until someone that I care about reaches out to me and explains something to me that I learn, okay, how can I correct this problem? How can I change? How can I be better?
Yeah, and it's like, it's stupid because like every so often there'll be a flash and it will be like, why am I doing this? Like, what do I have to gain by doing this? Like, another thing in college is I went to a bar one time with a bunch of friends for Halloween, and I got drunk and I'm like, okay, who's the biggest guy in the bar? I'm going to go up and fight him. And two of my buddies said, he'll kill you.
Yeah.
And part of me like wishes I did, because he would have killed me and then I would have been like, why did I do that? Like, what did I have to gain?
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what it was for me. I got beat up a lot, buddy. I had a big mouth. I still do. For some reason. Yeah, it's tough because obviously, like I said, this is a problem that's bigger than just hockey. But obviously, hockey is what we're seeing and what we need to focus on, and things do need to be put in place. You got people like Brock McGillis, who we've talked to before, not on this podcast.
No,
we'll have to have him on this podcast.
Yeah.
But we've talked to him in the past, and some changes that can be made, and it has to be made in hockey. And the ages that OHL players are, that's where you start.
Yeah. And just to go on the point, like, we're seeing it because we're in that hockey bubble. That's 100% true in the sense that it's a problem a lot bigger than hockey, but why not start with hockey and if set the example in hockey and people will follow, because people look up to the NHL players as role models. And if they like, hey, this isn't cool, then younger kids will be like, hey, why am I doing that? And my favorite player thinks it's not a cool thing to do.
Oh yeah, like 100%. I'm not like dismissing what's going on by saying, oh, like it's not just hockey. No, there's a problem in hockey.
Yeah.
But it stems from something bigger.
Yeah.
Does not mean we can't fix hockey.
Yeah.
Let's take that step. Like, I'm not asking us to fix toxic masculinity as a entirety. I'm just saying let's take a step with hockey. Yeah, that was a conversation there that I wasn't expecting that to turn into. I don't know if you thought that was going to turn into a toxic masculinity feminist type conversation.
I'm not sure. I'm looking at our prep sheet and I'm like, we're 2 topics in.
Let's talk about the optimism David Branch continues to have by releasing a statement. This was said before. The OHL is looking forward to the upcoming hockey season. We plan to drop the puck in the fall and will follow the lead of government and public health agencies on when it is safe to get back on the ice. Our players and coaches are getting ready to play, and our teams are working on their plans to provide the great experience our fans and community have come to expect from the OHL or from OHL hockey. Again, that's from David Branch, the homie, the big boss. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. We talked about Mr. Savage, Spitz co-owner, mentioning the possibility of 20 to 30% on the podcast that never came out. So things are going to be different. It's going to be tough for those fans. So as we said before, that had season tickets. Where we know, because I think if they're starting in the fall, there's not going to be full capacity yet. I can't see it.
No,
I can't see there a world where we allow that many people to be in one place yet, unless there's a vaccine.
Yeah,
which I doubt is happening in 3 months.
There will not be a vaccine by then. I think, and just so people know where you're coming from, Mr. Savage is in the podcast we released. We inserted an interview where during the interview he was.
We'll tweet out the 5-minute. Cody, it's a 16-minute interview. Cody will tweet out the 5-minute version tomorrow as well for you guys when this podcast.
So that makes sense. So people know where Mr. Savage is coming from.
He also remixed it and clipped every time Dom Papa says Mr. Savage. That's where the interview is from. AM 800, local line on sports. With Dom Papa, who used to call the Windsor Spitfire games and has done stuff with Saginaw. But yeah, he referred to him as Mr. Savage before every single question, which is fine.
Which is fine.
It shows more respect than Cody and I have ever shown people.
Yeah. I might go up the first time and be like Mr. Savage, but after that, I'm not calling you Mr. Savage.
Or I'm just like not saying your name. You know who I'm talking. It's you and I in the room.
Or I guess over the phone at that point. But still, who else is on that phone call with you?
Well, we're on a Zoom call right now. That would be like me going, hey, Mr. Wall, before every single sentence.
You should start doing that.
Hey, C Wizzy, what's up? Something that I thought was cool, though, is that the CHL live streaming service is going to be new. And it's funny. We talked about this, that if, since people won't be allowed in the arenas, they kind of have to do this. In a press release from the WHL, it was announced that going forward, the CHL will provide a joint streaming service across all 3 CHL leagues. I'm sure all my people on Scouts Twitter are just so happy. The statement is in a partnership with the Canadian Hockey League, Ontario Hockey League, and Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. The WHL is pleased to announce the development of a brand new streaming service set to launch with the beginning of the 2021 regular season. WHL fans can look forward to all 3 CHL leagues housed under one streaming service with a new digital platform developed by an entirely new partner available on new devices. Man, there's a lot of new there.
A lot of it.
Further details, including the new streaming service provider, pricing, and packaging, will be announced at a later date. It's rumored that they want to be competitive with the AHL package, which is $100. So if you get all 3 leagues for $100, that's something. That's a good look.
Yeah, one, it's massive that they're all coming together, because before you had to pay individually. The other big thing is the fact that they said that it's a brand new partner. Who anyone who had any of the streaming services last season understands, like, it was trash.
It was
It was
trash.
complete garbage. There would be times where the games wouldn't be up, or it was just a poorly run service.
Yeah, it was awful. And like, I basically think they took the cable stream and just showed us it. That's what it was. Sometimes it wasn't even on the right channel. Like, it's look, it just has to be better, especially if not everyone's allowed in the arena. I don't know the type of TV deals that are going to happen, if this changes anything, but like, a lot more people are going to need this service, including NHL teams, because a lot of places are going to go video scouting, because who knows what travel is going to be like in the future. But also they're going to need to save money. The NHL teams, right? So video scouting is probably going to be very popular next year. So you just need to have better quality. Like, it has to happen. And I just hope it stays in place for a while. And I hope it's at that $99 mark, because I can deal with that. I can't deal with, well, what was it?
Wasn't it 200 just for the OHL?
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, it was pricey. It wasn't good. Thanks, Jonathan. Just so you guys know, Jonathan Moran bought the package. Cody and I were supposed to split with him. He leaves. He left the O show, but we continued to use the streaming service ourselves. So
came up clutch.
Yeah, it came up clutch. So
it was his parting gift.
It was. You know what? We owed it to him to continue to use it, because then it would have been a waste of money.
He didn't have time to be watching anymore. He was too busy with the Spits.
So you could only watch Spits games. You're only allowed to once you're with the team. That's funny. A few weeks back, we talked about Nick Robertson possibly being on the I almost said Spits roster, the Leafs roster, the taxi squad. There's been a couple names thrown out there that may also be joining the taxi squads of the other teams. Liam Foudy is one of them. An article published by Dan Rosen on NHL.com suggested that Foudy may see the ice, not just be on the taxi squad, may see the ice against the Leafs in the qualifier series. Columbus GM Jarmo Kekalainen said in an interview I did with him last month that the forward will be given an opportunity to be a regular in the lineup in the qualifier series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Foudy did play 2 games with the Blue Jackets after being recalled on emergency basis from London. You remember that, Cody. It was kind of a crazy time. He went, played for them, came back, played a game for the Knights, and went and played for them again. They do have some players coming back from injuries. However, Dan noted that Foudy fits the style of the Jackets, fits the style that the Jackets like to play due to his ability to kill penalties and apply pressure and skate as well as he does, just add speed basically to that lineup. What are your thoughts on the possibility of Foudy not only being on that taxi squad, but almost confirming that he's going to be on the ice against your Toronto Maple Leafs?
I mean, he seems like that perfect type of plug and play player, honestly. Like, I don't think, like, I have questions of how high his upside at the NHL level is, but for something like this, where it's like you just throw him in, like a guy with his ability to skate should have a huge advantage in this type of tournament where you just dropped in and you got to go, because like skating's going to, now more than ever, I feel like skating is going to be the most important thing in hockey. And I always say how skating has come to a point where it's somewhat overrated. But right now, I think skating is the most valuable asset you have.
Well, especially on a team like Columbus that I think maybe needs that speed a little, or needs more guys up front to contribute in some way. I mean, I'm not expecting him to just create some offense.
Yeah, like he seems like the perfect guy to even just go out there and create energy for the team, like with the pressure he applies and his skating and his, like he said, he could play on the PK. He seems like the perfect plug and play energy guy who I don't know. And one thing interesting about it is like, one thing I've been thinking about is like the older players coming and jumping back in compared to the younger players. I feel like the younger players are going to jump back in a lot easier than those older players. And Foudy's 19, 20?
Yeah, he's definitely going to have some jump that maybe some players won't. But I mean, it might be like what we're seeing in the NBA with some older players coming back in shape. So we really don't know what that's going to be like. But yeah, I think obviously Foudy's biggest thing is his lacking the IQ, but it's basically the start of a season, and we know how bad the structure of games are at the start of a season. So it might help Foudy because no one's playing really good at that time. So when it comes to decision making, he might not be out of place all that much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was going to say the one point against him, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably even a positive. Like you said, with Columbus, add that speed, because like the Leafs are a fast team. He'll be able to match that speed. I was thinking maybe it's a negative, because the Leafs are probably going to be able to keep up with them just with who they have on their roster of young guys as well. But like, if you can keep up with the Leafs, get out there.
Oh yeah. And I'll be excited to see if he is out there, because it's always nice to watch guys come from the O, take that next step, and get to play. What
series winning goal?
Look, I would not be excited if that happened, if Foudy scores that goal, but Colin Ward probably would be. The big London Knight fan at the 0-60 podcast. Another player, though, that is probably going to be on the taxi squad. Who knows? Some say yes, some say no, but will for sure be, yeah, you heard it, for sure be a Nashville Predator next season. Phillip Tomasino, that's right, Jen's updates. I got $150 on the line, Cody, and I got to ask you.
For the second time.
The second time, and I know your answer. Did I bet enough money?
Well, I'm gonna say for the second time, you made a bad bet, because you shouldn't be taking easy money from people online. Tate, it's just not nice of
you. So Cody agrees with me. If you did not understand, we made that joke the last podcast that we recorded, never put out. Blah 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 blah. Let's move on from it. Yes. So Phillip Tomasino, we both think is sick. Like I used the reference last podcast. I can't. How many times am I going to reference this? I said basically when we bring up Phillip Tomasino playing in the NHL next year, I'm passing you over a dead horse to get a few more whacks in.
I just drew a blank. I'm like, what just happened? I'm like, is more coming?
You just fell asleep, I think. Oh my gosh!
I heard you say, and I heard you stop talking. I'm like, this is my cue to jump in, and
If
I'm.
if
I mean,
you're listening to this, if you're listening to the audio version, take a look at what time whatever's going on just happened. Go to YouTube, watch the video podcast, go to that time, and you can see Cody literally twitch. Your hand is like up here, you're like a DJ, buddy. I thought you were an 8 Mile trying to hype Eminem up for a second. Holy smokes. You fell asleep. Like his eyes were closed. You went to bed. I'm going to screen grab that and post it everywhere.
Oh, please
At least a week.
Oh, yeah. What did you say? Dead horse? Yeah.
I said we're basically continue to beat a dead horse because we've said 100 times that he's playing in the NHL next year. But what we haven't done is gotten the opinion of someone who sees the Nashville Predators play every game. I kind of burped there. This is just going downhill. Justin Bradford, author of Making Smashville, or author of The Making of Smashville, and editor-in-chief on Penalty Box Radio. We talked to him. We told him about my bet, too. You can hear exactly what he says, how stupid I might be, coming up here. So today's guests, I have author of The Making of Smashville, an award-winning host, editor-in-chief of Penalty Box Radio, Justin Bradford. Justin, thank you for coming on and talking with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I think I want to get right into it because there's two main prospects that play in the OHL that the Preds hold the rights to. Both players seem to have fans really excited. Anytime you mention them on Twitter, they seem to get really excited. Are they excited because of the offense these players can bring, and considering the lack of offense we've seen from the Preds this season?
I think that plays a big part in it. I also think what plays a big role in it is, for instance, with Phillip Tomasino, he's just pure production player, and it's exciting because the Predators fans, they're not always used to having first-round picks. So David Poile has traded away plenty of those to try to build a team to be competitive in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So for them to have Eeli Tolvanen and Phillip Tomasino, for them to have first-round picks to be excited about, it knows that, hey, there's actual true potential here, and that the expectation for a first-round pick is there to actually be successful. And they're not used to having that, used to having to develop mid-round picks and have to wait 4 or 5 years to see what those guys are made of. But here with Tomasino, you see a legit high-potential player performing at the highest level in the OHL and making it where people are talking, hey, is he going to make the team out of this training camp that's coming up going into the playoffs, or is it going to be next season when he makes it? That has people excited. Now, on Egor Afanasyev, they're excited for a couple reasons. One, they want to follow him because it's part of that PK Subban trade, which I think plays a big role in that, is why it's going to be curious to see how that plays out later on. Secondly, his personality is absolutely awesome. Egor interacts with fans on Twitter. I've become good friends with him, which is what's really great too, just having a good conversation with him. And you can tell he's the kind of player that he's no nonsense. Just in seeing him play and talking to him after games, he's quick to blame himself. He's also quick to call out his teammates in a way that he expects more out of his teammates. And you don't always see that out of hockey players, where they get too cliche a lot of times. And I certainly hope it doesn't turn out that way later in life for him. But he is a leader in terms of he wants to lead by example, from what I really see, but he's willing to call out his teammates and say, hey, you can do better. Don't take 2 stupid penalties, things like that. The game I saw in November where I saw you after the game, he's like, we're taking too many stupid penalties. No, we're not going to be able to have offense and provide offense if we're on the penalty kill all the time, and then I can't play either and do what I'm supposed to do. So it's kind of neat to see that aspect come out of player, plus his production in his first year in juniors as well is very good, and he's a big dude. And a power forward always gets people salivating when you have a power forward that also puts up some numbers and can hopefully continue to develop as well. So I think those, just kind of bringing it back, is what makes it really exciting for those two guys, especially they're able to interact with these people. They're seeing them a lot more. The coverage of these two prospects has been there for a lot as well. And Eeli Tolvanen, people, I won't say have soured on him necessarily, but they're having to play the patience game with him as a first-round pick. And the expectation is, hey, first-round pick, second-round pick, they should be there right now. And they're kind of seeing with Tomasino and gravitating towards that. So it's not to put more pressure on him, but it's just the expectation level of fans now. But I, for one, I'm definitely excited. I know Preds fans are excited what these guys are able to bring in the next couple of years.
It's kind of weird because we've kind of had an off season here, and there's a possibility that Tomasino might be on this reserve list. I've seen some Nashville blogs say he won't. I've seen others say that he will be. What are your thoughts? Do you think he'll be on that list? And what could be the benefits even if he doesn't play any games?
Well, the big benefit would just be getting more practice with NHL veterans. One, just helps you get better. Two, you're on the ice practicing with them, getting to know them, making those connections. All those little things for a young hockey player, what you want to do to develop is creating those mentorships with older players, because the Predators are one of the oldest teams in the NHL. It's crazy to say that out loud because it used to be the opposite of that just a few years ago. But with the veterans getting older and older and them not having many players on ELCs, they're one of the oldest teams in the league. So that as well can carry a lot of mentorship, because you can talk to these guys on what makes you be successful, how to be a pro. Granted, the OHL and especially the Canadian Major Juniors, they're really good at trying to develop players to be a professional. They're having to be a professional at age 15, where you don't necessarily see that as much in the U.S. because they're having to live away from home, having to do a lot of things on their own. They have to go to the rink. The way things are just handled are professional from a teenage standpoint, whereas in the U.S., they're a lot of times waiting until they're in college. Even if you have the U.S. junior programs, it's just not the same. It's just not the same. We all know it's not the same. But seeing this too is interesting that he could make it, because he absolutely should have an opportunity to. And depending on camp, I mean, everybody keeps saying Rainier Saros. They've been off for 4 months by this time. Anything can happen. I mean, anything can happen with the player's development. You're starting fresh. It is a brand new training camp the way I see it. If Tomasino comes in and he impresses, and he's an invite to this camp that they're going to have, why not? It's one of those why not if he's able to fit in the mold, because who knows what other players that may lose a spot have done. So the way I throw it out there is anything can happen. I would like to see him get an opportunity to, but it's not going to be a bad thing if he doesn't play. It's just going to be more opportunity, and it's going to make him push even harder. Because I know, especially that trade with Oshawa bringing him in, there's other reasons behind that as well. While they wanted Tomasino there for their next season, and it probably stink for them to not have him next season. But it's one of those things that for him, he is almost getting to that Ryan Ellis level and Seth Jones level, where what else more can he accomplish personally in junior? And it's that weird gray area because he can't go to the American League, but might still be a little too fresh for the NHL, but he's not going to learn anything more in junior. So it's that weird time for him. Then hopefully if he does make that jump, he makes it pretty cleanly and can learn and not have some frustrating months of play that we've seen out of players before. But for me, the big thing is that I want him to get an opportunity. You know, the Predators are very excited about that, and he can produce. And so it's just that, I don't want to say size, but him being the age that he is, we all know he's going to put on some more muscle in the next few years, and you don't want to see him get injured or hurt or anything like that from some of these bigger guys out there that are going to be targeting the young rookie. So those are just my concerns and what I see. But, yeah, he absolutely should have an opportunity to prove himself, that's for sure.
And if he was to make the team next year, what type of role do you see him playing? Is it top six? Is it bottom six with some power play time? Like, what do you expect? Is he on the wing playing center? Like, what can we expect from him?
I mean, for me, and it's one of those things that's been troublesome for Pred's development sometimes in terms of prospects, is if you're going to have a kid that is used to putting up 100-plus points in junior, you don't need to be putting him on the fourth line. You need to put them in positions to where they can flourish and be successful and learn. And in that case, I would say middle six, because now we all know with NHL, it's usually going to be three lines that can at least score, that third line being the you never know what's going to happen, and your fourth line is your energy, whatever. But a middle six opportunity, the Predators don't always like to put a young guy at center, but it's a brand new coaching system, and this is going to be a brand new camp under a new coach. The Predators didn't have that with John Hynes. They had to come right in and just jump right into his system and try to learn it on the fly. So, and he's developed plenty of players before and worked in developing systems. So I'm curious to see what they would do there. But a middle six role is definitely one of those things I'd love to see him get some power play opportunity, because it's a little more protected there as well, to have opportunity to flourish and to get him in there so where he can put up some points, because we all know how big confidence plays with rookies. If he can gain some confidence and he can get rolling, who knows what could happen with a guy like Phillip Tomasino. So, yeah, middle six, I don't want to see him on the fourth line whatsoever. It'd be hard to put him right now, all things being considered, contract-wise, to put him in the top six. But middle six, I think he could flourish there. If you have to put him on wing, you put him on wing. But you know what? Throw him in at center a little bit and see what happens there. It's one of those things for me is that with a training camp with Phillip Tomasino and he has a good training camp, why not? It's not what do you have to lose, but it's you have a talent there. Utilize that talent to the best of your ability.
And then with him, you already touched on it. He doesn't have much to prove back in junior at this point. If he, worst case scenario, ends back in the OHL next season, what do you want to see out of him? What do you want him to work on? Is it just a matter of putting on more muscle and building that strength?
I mean, even more of pure domination more than anything else. But for real, too, it's one of those, it's got to be a full-on breakout party for him. If someone for some odd reason didn't know who Phillip Tomasino was, make sure they know your name. And whether it's producing or back-checking, little things like that, the Predators, just in their systems, the way they do it, is I don't want to say he needs to work on it because I haven't watched enough of his games to make sure of this, but make sure he's playing that good two-way game, which I've seen that hustle and the back check from him already so he can get back on there. But that's going to be one of those big points in playing in pro compared to junior a lot of times is got a back check. So that's going to be a big thing right there too is, hey, especially now as advanced stats continue to grow, let's look at his numbers in terms of the high danger shot opportunities that are allowed when he's on the ice. Let's take a look really deeper into that. We know he can produce. Now how can he be an even better all-around offensive player, especially as a center? Potentially, and you want him to be a top six player. You want him to be getting those minutes. So now let's get into the nitty gritty of him and what he's going to be able to provide. That's what I'd love to see now is then what's his defensive ability like? We know he can produce. We know he can do very well in the power play. Now let's put him into some situations where he's going to be tested to make him even better development-wise.
When it comes to Egor, how many years do you think he is away? And do you think there's a possibility he can play in the AHL next year? I know we've tried to check. It kind of depends on where he was drafted from, whether it's the USHL or from the Windsor Spitfires. He signed his contract before the draft, but everything I've checked says he was drafted out of the USHL, so that would make him eligible for the AHL. Do you think he could play in the AHL next year, and how many years do you think he is away?
I got to say, Igor's close to doing a lot of things, but I'd still like to see another year of him in the O just to really continue to get suited for it. And for him to have a domination type of season. I mean, he had a really good season this year. I mean, a really good season, especially for a rookie. But you can see with his size as well and just improve on his skating and little things like that to where he can continue to get better. And for him, I'd like to see another year in junior, then maybe the A. And then if not the A, then he's competing directly for a spot. There's a lot of contract situations coming up for the Predators very, very soon to where there's a really good opportunity for Egor to make this club in the next 2 years just because they're going to need him to make the club in the next 2 years. They need more ELCs. The Predators do not have enough ELCs. And we've all seen teams that go on to win the Stanley Cup have a great collection of veteran contracts and a lot of youth that you're getting a lot out of for a little bit of money. They don't have that right now. So for them to continue to be consistent and have a window open, even with Pecorino getting ready to retire, getting really close to that age, they need to have these young kids coming in on ELCs that can overproduce for the contract that they have. And Igor's one of those guys, just like Tomasino, that has that ability, I think, too, especially because he continues to build more muscle. He's already grown so much from November when I saw him at the draft. It was crazy how much bigger he's gotten. He's putting in the work, and I know talking with him this offseason, he's been staying with a trainer in Michigan. So he is continuing to put in the work this offseason to get bigger. So I can only imagine how much bigger of a body he's going to be next season, whenever next season starts, compared to this previous season as well. And you see some of the kids in the OHL and compare them to the size of Egor Afanasyev. That's crazy. I mean, he's a big dude. So domination out of him was I'd love to see as well, to where it's making people question. They're already kind of curious about Afanasyev now. Well, what's that next step? Is that using that body to assert dominance, where they're stealing puck off of guys, rubbing guys out against the wall, and just making sure that he's asserting his dominance from the physical aspect as well as putting up those points. So I really do think maybe 2 years away from the NHL for Afanasyev would be a legitimate thing for him.
Did you agree with his decision to jump over to the OHL this offseason? And how much of an impact do you think the Preds have in helping him choose the best development path for his career?
I think it was a good choice for him, especially going into the situation that he's at and the connection that the Predators have had with the Spitfires in the past. I know things obviously change from coaching and things like that, but just on an organizational standpoint to work with. Plus, he's used to being in the Michigan area. So being that close to other things that are familiar to him, because he's still learning a lot just about culture. And Windsor, I'd say, is a fairly safe area in terms of being thrown into the culture area because you're getting a good mix of U.S. culture and Canadian culture, especially right there too. And it's just a good contact point for him. And I could see that he has enjoyed it there. He loves his Tim's apple fritters. So he loves having that at the rink. That's been his daily thing, as a coffee and a fritter before on a game day. So I think it's been good development-wise for him, especially too that I don't recall seeing many rough patches for him. He was fairly consistent overall through the season, which every player is going to have, ups and downs, but overall through the season he was producing. And when asking the Predator scouting staff, they love what his development has been. And they know that the skating is something they want him to work on, but he's a big dude. He's a big body, long legs. That's going to be something naturally that they're always going to have to work on as they're skating. And he's definitely working on that. And he's confident, but not overly confident. I think that's what the OHL is really good for him, is to establish where his role is, that he can now utilize that confidence and see where he belongs, and he should be near the top, whether it's production-wise, defensive-wise, anything like that, that in terms of his role, he should be one of those number one guys for the Windsor Spitfires that you can depend on in any situation just because of his arm span, his production, his slap shot, whatever. He's one of those guys that I want to see dominance out of as well. And so that's why in the that's a better spot for him, I think, the USHL, just talent-wise, because he's competing against a lot of other NHL prospects that are getting ready to be on the cusp as well. And in the USHL, in terms of prospects, majority of them, from what I see, is more of, hey, mid-round to late-round picks that, yeah, they have potential, but it's nowhere near the talent level yet of being in the O, the Q, or the W.
Do you think, I was taking a look at Nashville's, on elite prospects they have in the system. I was just taking a look at the prospects, and it looked like there was only these two from the OHL. With their success, do you think Nashville is going to be more willing to take guys from the O, or is it still kind of best player available at the draft, and whoever it happens to be, it happens to be?
That is a really good question, because it's something I almost ask every year of David Poyle and the scouts and everything, because they seem to have themes every draft year. Some years it's wow, they're really on a USHL kick this year. Oh, they're really on a college hockey kick this year. Oh, they took 3 guys out of the O. And for them, I think it's more still the best player available that they think fits their need overall. But I've asked in terms of development of, hey, what are you seeing out of the USHL that maybe wasn't there before? They went, well, there's just more money coming in. More American kids are choosing to go there. And then plus some kids from outside the U.S. are choosing to go to the USHL as an opportunity to get forward towards Canadian juniors. So just more talent in the pool being there and expanding their scouting staff is giving them more ability to look at other players too. So I think it's just kind of trends every year, but not one of those things where there's a player that they always have that they're just looking at in particular. It's just who's the best available for them. Tomasino, I think, was awesome that he was available where he was, because even him in his position where he was drafted could end up, when we do a redraft in 10 years, should have been drafted higher. But has that very much that potential there too. So, and same thing with Afanasyev. He has that potential to be one of those guys of maybe he should have went in the first round. Kind of thing. So it's just that the scouting stuff for the Preds, as with every team, has their different priorities, what they're looking for. You could tell going into last year's draft, they wanted to restock the cupboard, but they had certain things. They know they need a power forward. They want to restock centers just because looking at contracts with Kyle Turris and even Ryan Johansson and some of these guys, they want to get some youth, and they're the youth that can score and produce. And then Afanasyev with that power forward, which they don't really have necessarily a power forward unless it's Ryan Johansson to be the only guy, or even Phillip Forsberg, because he's beefed up a lot too. But Afanasyev, in terms of just pure size, when he gets to that prime area, he'll put them to shame in terms of size. If he can put everything together, it's going to be a lot bigger for him.
Just one last question for you. So I have a bet online with Jen's updates. I'm not sure if you've seen that Twitter account, but a big Generals fan. I bet $150 that Tomasino will be a Predator next year. The question for you is, did I bet enough money?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay, when you say next year, you mean next season, right?
Next season, exactly, okay. Yeah.
Next season, because we never know.
Yeah.
Gosh. I think you took it. I think it was fairly safe, depending on your budget. I think that was an okay bet to take. And me saying that is more from the Predators' historical standpoint, that they tend to not like rushing rookies in. Because if it were me, I'd love to see him go ahead and make the team, and you throw him to the Wolves and see what he can do. And other teams have been successful with that. Other teams not so much. The Predators seem to shy away from doing those things, as we've seen with Eeli Tolvanen. But then again, Eeli Tolvanen did not need to be in the NHL. He needs to continue to get better in the AHL. Tomasino, I don't think it'll be the same thing, just because of the way that he's been in North America for so long, the way he's continuing to produce. You put him in a position to succeed, like I was saying earlier, in that middle six, and I think he can flourish. And it comes down to camp. I fully believe the Predators are going to have, whenever the offseason actually is, are going to have some trades which can open up spots. And that's the reason why I would think he could make the roster, is that there's going to be some trades made because they need to figure out the salary cap situation with the backlog of centers that they have, which would open up a spot for him to make it because they know that, hey, we have this guy on an ELC for a couple seasons. Let's plop him in there and see what happens. So that would be the reason to argue for you taking that bet, is that they have some contract things they need to work out this offseason that would open up that spot for him to go in and swipe it, because there's some other players in the AHL that might do it. But if he has a great camp, by all means, he deserves it.
Well, thank you. You made me feel a little better.
You're welcome.
Well, Justin, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it, and I just hope you have a great day and stay safe.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Great night.
Again, that was Justin Bradford, who sees the Nashville Predators every game, gives his opinion. I kind of felt like he's rooting for it.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
he's hoping Phillip Tomasino does, but it does worry me that when he said that, like it's not a thing that they do. That worries me a little. I kind of I didn't feel good there. I got a little sick to my. I don't have $150.
I mean, you just got a promotion, so you should now, bud.
Oh, thanks, Cody. Thanks for mentioning it on the pod. Yeah, I got a promotion at work. Thank you. I appreciate it, but we're not gonna tell Jen's updates that,
Oh, you wanted
yeah, we're just
guilty.
I want him to feel bad when I'm living out on the streets or something. The U20 roster, they put out the U18 roster, and some people are like, weird, like Shane Wright's not on this roster. They must just be putting, they didn't want to put him on because they wanted to celebrate the 03s, right? 03s?
Yeah.
Am I mixing my years up right now?
Yeah, I think
because 02 draft years this year. Okay. I'm just getting because I've looked at midget minor for next year, so it's just all becoming a mess. So yeah, a lot of people thought they just, you know what, we'll just put all the 03s there. Don't worry about inviting Shane Wright, because there's not going to be a Gretzky. That's just not happening. So it was more of a, what's the word I'm looking for, Cody? They just did it to just say congrats to these kids. You're the top Canadian players.
Yeah.
They honored them.
There you go.
There we go. I don't know. That still doesn't sound. It was more of a
nice thing.
Formality. Okay. Anyways, so they invited 41 players to the U20 camp, and Shane Wright is on there. He put up 66 points in his rookie season. Oh, man, how sick is this kid gonna be? Is he making that team? I've seen some projected rosters, and they don't have him on there.
No, I don't.
But here's the thing. Here, let me just say this before you speak, okay? I just have to add this point, because of all top end players, of all of them, this guy, you're they have to play top 6 to be effective. This guy doesn't.
No.
He could be your fourth line center.
Yep. 100%.
And play that role. Okay,
yeah.
Say what you gotta say.
I was just gonna say it's gonna be an uphill battle for him, but but I think he has a shot, because like you said, I was gonna add, he has that two-way game already, and the only thing I'm thinking of is if he comes to that tournament and he doesn't produce, is it another Byfield situation where people get down on him? But at the same point, he's 16.
He's 16, dude. He has 2 more years. 2. That's
could we see a situation kind of like when Austin Matthews made Team North America, where he starts down in the lineup and towards the end he's playing top 6?
We could see that, or depending on the type of season Shane Wright starts with next year, it may be a debate right now because of the amount of points that you put up, but just from a development standpoint, we don't know the kind of step he's about to take. Yeah. And if we see that's it could become no question.
Yeah.
by the time the tournament rolls around. Like we could be like, okay, this guy's played 30 games and he's almost at his point total of last year.
Yeah. Well,
maybe
I think
that's a little aggressive, but
yeah.
but it could.
I think McDavid, his second season, had 99 points. So if Shane Wright puts up similar points per game as McDavid did that season, would he be on that roster?
I would think so. I mean, obviously it doesn't go by points, and I think that's why I think the craziest part about Shane Wright and what makes him so great for this team is that he can play on different lines. I don't remember what line McDavid played on. Do you?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I wish I did. Obviously they got. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say with Shane Wright, another thing people might think because he's 16 is like he's not physically capable of playing against the best of the best at this age group. But like, he's a big kid for 16. He's McDavid or Wright is like he's around 175, 180, is he not? He's somewhere in that range. I'll Google it right now. But like, he has no issue.
I think it's right here in the notes. He's 180.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, like 5'11", 180. Like, yeah, there's no issue there.
Like looking at the sizes of these players,
he's heavier than some.
Yeah, he might be. He might be top 5, like tied in the top 5, because there's a lot of guys listed at 180.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like he's on par, same weight as like guys like Ryan Suzuki, Phillip Tomasino. Like he weighs the same.
The best thing is like you just go down this list and you see 01, 02, 01, 02, 01, 04.
04.
Like that is it's just absolutely
the other thing is look at the end of the list. It's all their draft years and then 2022.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Most like still a lot of draft eligible 2020 guys. One mention was, and this might be because the defense is a little short up as well.
Yeah.
Is Brandt Clark not getting invited? He's projected to go either first or second in next year's draft, and usually those guys get a shot in camp. He might be a player that gets invited though in the camp that's in November or December. Because depending on the start of his season, like I mean, this guy might be a point per game defenseman or more next year.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. He might get a shot in November, and like you said, those guys who are projected to go top 3 in the draft tend to get at least the invite. Is it maybe the sense that like they're thinking right now his biggest flaw is his defensive game? Everyone knows he's an elite offensive defenseman. Are you bringing him to the camp and slotting him to that role to be your quarterback on that power play? Like what do you see him doing?
Yeah, like that's the thing. You got Byram and Drysdale there and Thomas Harley there. Obviously, I'm not super familiar with some of these Western and Quebec guys, except for Byram. But you do have guys there that will be able to quarterback a power play. Although Brandt Clark might be the best at it, I would not. I would be okay with Jamie Drysdale or Bowen Byram to do that. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. Like people are projecting Clark to be around a point a game or over a point a game his draft season. Wasn't Byram a point a game defenseman his draft season? Like,
yeah.
So like there are options, and same thing with Jamie Drysdale. He's an elite I guess he's a two-way defenseman that has an offensive game. I don't know. Like with Clark, he seems like such a special player, but what he's special at, a lot of players on that roster seem to be able to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption to make because, it really depends. We kind of talk about the step that Shane Wright might possibly make next year. Brant Clark might take another step. We've seen it with Jamie Drysdale, where he kind of became less of that point producer, more of a two-way guy, more complete defenseman.
Yeah.
I guess with Clark, it's like he's never been that though. Like
No.
not even a little bit. So there is probably that different. By the way, that I put out a Twitter poll that you were wondering which draft eligible, 2021 draft eligible, would you rather have you build your OHL franchise around either Mason McTavish or Brant Clark? And Brant Clark won 80%.
Yeah. Well,
to 20%.
That's what I thought. Like
it's just, it was just a little conversation starter. Someone said, duh, Clark.
It's just to quickly add on to the thing about Clark is like we talked about how Shane Wright seems like you could slot him on the fourth line and he could fill a purpose. Could you slot Brant Clark on your bottom pair and just no power play time and see him being an effective player for you?
I can't.
So that's my argument.
That's the difference. And that's a fair argument to make. But depending on the offensive output that this guy can put out, like he might just play his way on that team.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, you know what, we have to at least bring him.
Yeah.
So that's something we're going to see. Let's talk a little NHL talk, though, here on this long-ass podcast. I'll play the sounder. Da-da-da-da. Okay, Cody. Okay. It's time to talk the Buffalo Sabres, which is funny because remember Jack Eichel made some comments and I'm like, hey, we should probably talk about the Buffalo Sabres. At that time, did you think things would get worse?
I don't think anyone predicted this.
So basically the Pagulas, the owners of the Buffalo Sabres, cleaned house after the team missed the playoffs for the 9th straight season. According to TSN, Frank Cervelli, 22 members of the organization were fired in total. I think I seen Elliott say maybe upwards to 30, but we're talking like from the GM to your AHL head coach and assistant coach, your amateur scouting department, gone. They're gone. Cervelli added that other NHL teams who are losing money due to the coronavirus pandemic might consider firing some staff. Here's the concerning part. Other teams' staffers have mentioned, will more NHL teams now attempt to follow given uncertainty surrounding COVID? Not limited to 7 teams who might not play again until January. Some worried others will take notice with most scouting work already done.
Yeah.
I mean, like it does look. I seen someone put out. I think it could have been Elite Prospects. They put out a scouting report, and someone said, "Well, you're just copying people now because their newest scouting report moved some guys. They're like, no one's played hockey. How is this possible?" And I think it could have been Rachel Dory or someone there said video scouting exists. Like you can continue to watch guys, but it probably does get to a point where you can't watch people anymore. So you can lay off some staff if like another month of watching these players is about what you would normally do. And the draft isn't until October. Like you can save some money there. Yeah.
I don't envy scouts or anyone in that position where it's like you're not, I don't want to say you're not crucial, but like you're expendable right now. Like I don't envy anyone in that position in hockey right now because I think you're gonna see more people let go from different teams across the league.
What do you think of Buffalo specifically, though? Do you think it was the right decision to fire their GM? Do you think, like, what do you think of when you see this team? Because to me, I take a look at this team. First of all, they're the easiest team to rebuild in NHL 20.
100%. You don't need to rebuild them. You just need to sim a couple seasons, and Eichel and Dahlin
will carry the team.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you sign a Tendy and you're set. You're all good. Like how many teams have potentially a franchise center and franchise defenseman and can't figure it out?
both under 23 years old.
Like,
It's
I don't know if Jason Botterill was given enough. Like, he was given 3 years,
yeah.
which is some time, and he obviously has the O'Reilly trade, but like, is 3 years enough time for a GM? Or should they not be given 5?
It's. I mean, I can see the case for why you would say 3 years is enough time, but then there's also situations where like there was some dumb decisions made in those 3 years. Like the one that sticks out is the Jeff Skinner contract. How much he's making? $9 million. I mean,
Well, what annoys me and like Sabre fans or people will be like, well, he wasn't on the line with Jack Eichel. I don't care. You get $9 million. Figure out how to pot some.
yeah, if you're
Be able
making
to score some goals.
if you're making $9 million, you're supposed to carry your line.
Yeah.
Like you're the driving force on your line. So you should be able to be slotted on a second line and be like, okay, I'm the main option. That should not be an issue at that type of money.
No.
Because if you're making $9 million, but you need another player to be good, like get out of here. But another thing, Opozo was before Jason Bradford, right? He's been there for a few.
Yeah, I think so. See, we wanted to get a Buffalo beat writer to talk about this, but as you can see how long this podcast already is, yeah, that was before because
Awkward pauses.
yeah, just say it was before and continue what you were saying.
That was okay. Just say okay. Yeah, so that was before, but like Opozo was I think 4 years opposed to 3 years. So like I don't know. Like there's dumb decisions there. They also have a good. I would say they have a good core to build around between.
Yeah.
Obviously Eichel, Dahlin, but even like guys like Sam Reinhart's a decent piece. Like you have pieces on that roster. I just think like I can see your point of the 5 years. You should be given 5 years, but at the same point, you got to show progress and like Eichel jumped forward this season in terms of his production, but like that was really it. I mean, Dahlin was injured for a decent chunk, but not that much. I think he was only injured for like 10 games. Or so.
Well, he still put up 40 and 60. Like, you know, he's what, 20 now? This is
20.
his second
top scoring defenseman on the team.
Yeah, and like, oh my God, I feel bad for this guy. Like that was his second season in the NHL.
That's the question. Like, if you had to let go of one of them and choose one to rebuild around, I think I'm letting go of Eichel before Dahlin.
Here, Cody, you just got to keep talking for a sec so I can fix the camera. So you do you talk about the Sabres.
I'll talk about the Sabres. Okay, so I mean, the thing looking at the roster, I have it up in front of me, is the one thing they have going for them is their top 5 scorers on the team at the beginning of the season were at least under 25 years old. So like that's a good sign for the future. And then obviously the Jeff Skinner contract is a killer. Like how many years? Do you remember how many years that deal is for? Is that a full on 7 or 8 year deal, Tate? Or are you still here? Okay, I'll just talk. I will look it up and stall for time while Tate fixes his camera. So let me just pull up Jeff Skinner's contract. I believe it's $9 million. Yeah, 8 years, $72 million for a guy who had 14 goals this season. Like, he's making $1 million less than Jack Eichel and had 23 points compared to Eichel's 78.
Look, I think the podcast is almost done anyways. By the time I get this thing going, basically I got my phone set up as like a wireless webcam.
Okay.
And it died.
There it is.
So I mean, plug it in right now.
We can just wrap it up. Like there's not.
Yeah, we can wrap. We can get into. We'll get a Buffalo. We'll get someone to talk about them.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, we've got a little tease of what we think. Basically, I'm blaming Jeff Skinner for a lot. Did you
Honestly,
hear me?
I'm blaming Jack Eichel a little bit, but we'll get into that a little more.
Yeah. Did you hear the thing I said about Skinner and Eichel though?
I didn't have headphones in at all.
Skinner's making $1 million less than Eichel. He had 23 points this season. Eichel had 78.
What a ridiculous number. All right, so that's it for us this week. We will be back on Tuesday. So a short turnaround. You'll see that real quick. Thanks again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your night, evening, morning, whenever you're listening. That's all from us. Follow me on Twitter at Cody Wall. Oh, follow me at Twitter at TayHarris9. Follow Cody at Cody Wall 62. Yeah, we definitely got to end this. Goodbye.